The jungle on the alien moon. The storm came without warning. One moment Captain Elias Ward's ship was gliding through the calm black of space, and the next, burning fragments of rock were tearing across his view. The meteor storm hit like a hammer, pounding the hull, shaking the cockpit. He fought the controls, alarms blaring in his ears, but the engines were gone. The last thing he saw before blacking out was a huge green and blue moon spinning toward him. When Elias woke, there was silence. The ship was on its side, half bare. In soft earth, the canopy above cracked but holding. Through the broken glass he saw towering shapes, trees, but unlike any trees he had ever known, they rose like giant pillars, their trunks glowing faintly with veins of light. Their leaves so wide they looked like sails, somewhere far above. Strange bird-like creatures called out in haunting, echoing cries. He crawled out of the wreckage, breathing the thick, warm air. The jungle smelled alive, damp earth, sweet fruit, and something sharp, almost metallic. In the distance, he heard the slow hiss of water moving over rocks, but under it, there was another sound, soft, quick, and deliberate, footsteps. He spun around, but saw nothing. Only vines swaying in the still air. Elias moved cautiously, scanning the undergrowth. Something was watching him. He was sure of it. He could feel eyes on his back. The sensation prickled his skin. He turned again, still nothing. Only the massive trees, shadows, and the strange flicker of light from glowing plants. He knew the stories. Every pilot did. They called this place Chikara's Moon, named after the first explorer who came here and never left. Rumors said it was home to a strange guardian. Some claimed she was a half-human, half-monkey alien warrior. Others swore she was a shapeshifter, a trickster spirit. Whatever she was, she didn't like visitors. Some ships had gone down here over the years, and none of the crews had been found. Elias checked his gear. His communicator was dead. The emergency beacon fried in the crash. He still had a knife, a water pouch, and a small ration pack, enough to last 2 days maybe. He had to find a way to repair his ship or signal for help. But first, he needed to know what was out there. The jungle grew denser as he moved. Massive roots curled across the ground like the backs of sleeping beasts. Tiny insect-like creatures darted from leaf to leaf, glowing softly in the dim light. Above, something moved, a shadow between branches. Elias froze, staring upward. There, just for a moment, he saw them, 2 golden eyes. Watching, the gaze was steady, unblinking. Then, in a blur of movement, they vanished into the leaves. He swallowed hard. Friend or foe? He whispered to himself, but the jungle gave no answer. By midday, the heat pressed heavy on his shoulders. He found a small clearing and stopped to drink from his pouch. As he knelt, he noticed something strange, a small pile of fruit, neatly arranged on a flat rock. The fruit was bright orange, smooth-skinned, and still wet as if freshly picked. Next to it was a small gourd filled with clear water. He glanced around, his hand on his knife. This was no accident. Someone had left it here. For him, he didn't touch it. Instead, he slowly backed away, eyes on the trees, somewhere above. He thought he heard a faint chattering sound, not quite speech, but not animal either. It was a mix of clicks, hums, and soft whistles. It faded as quickly as it came. By evening, Elias had set up a small camp near the wreck of his ship. He built a fire, more for comfort than warmth. The glow kept the nearest shadows at bay, but the feeling of being watched never left. Sometimes he caught a flicker of movement high in the branches. Other times it was the soft shift of leaves where there was no wind, as the twin moons of the planet rose in the sky, bathing the jungle in silver light. Elias sat by the fire. His mind ran through possibilities. Hunter, scavenger, survivor, ghost. But no matter what she was, one thing was certain. She was out there, and she had already decided whether he would live or die. He just didn't know her choice yet. Signs of the hunter. The jungle woke early. Elias opened his eyes to the sound of distant screeches and the rustling of leaves high above. His small fire had burned out during the night, leaving only a curl of smoke rising from blackened wood. The air was cool now, but it carried the damp weight of morning. He sat up slowly, scanning the trees. Nothing moved, at least, nothing he could see. But the feeling was still there, that quiet pressure in the back of his mind, the sense that someone was watching him. It wasn't the same as being stalked by an animal. Animals waited for weakness, for the moment to strike. This felt like someone was measuring him. He strapped his knife to his belt, slung his ration pack over his shoulder, and started moving. The ground was soft and thick with fallen leaves, but every so often he saw signs that didn't belong to nature: a vine tied in a perfect knot around a branch, a strip of bark cut clean from a tree, small woven ropes dangling just above eye level, swaying gently in the still air. These were not accidents. Someone had built them. Elias stopped near a tall tree whose trunk was scored with deep, parallel cuts. Each mark was clean, as if made by a sharp blade or claw. The pattern climbed the tree like a ladder, disappearing into the canopy. He touched one of the grooves. The wood felt fresh, not yet hardened by weather. Whoever made it was close. By midday, the air had turned heavy with heat. Elias pushed through a wall of hanging vines into a small clearing. The sunlight here was strange, tinted green and gold as it filtered through the thick leaves above. In the center of the clearing was another offering. This time, the fruit was cut into neat pieces, placed on a large leaf. Beside it lay a small animal skull, polished to a smooth shine. A gift, or a warning. He crouched low, studying it. The arrangement was too careful for an animal. It was a message, but was it saying eat or leave? Before he could decide, a sudden movement in the treetops caught his eye. A dark shape swung from one branch to another with impossible speed. He caught a glimpse of fur-like markings, the flash of a tail, and then those golden eyes, staring down at him again. The look was not aggressive, but it was not friendly either. Elias stood slowly, keeping his hands visible. "I don't want trouble," he called out, his voice steady. The figure tilted her head slightly, as if considering his words. Then she moved again, a blur of motion, disappearing deeper into the jungle. He followed, though carefully. The path she left was subtle. A bent branch here, a faint print in the moss there. He moved slowly to avoid making noise. Once, he stepped on a twig, and the sharp cracks seemed to echo through the trees like an alarm. The jungle went silent. Even the insects stopped their hum. From somewhere above, the soft chattering returned. This time it was longer, more rhythmic. Almost like she was speaking to him in a language he couldn't understand. When he didn't respond, the sound faded again, replaced by the normal noise of the jungle. By late afternoon, Elias had circled back toward his crash site. He noticed something new. A rope bridge, hidden high in the canopy. It stretched between two massive trees, its woven fibers blending into the foliage. He hadn't seen it before, which meant it had been there all along, invisible until now. He wondered if she had meant for him to notice it. The sun began to sink, casting the jungle in deep amber light. Elias returned to his camp to find that someone had been there. His small pile of supplies had been moved, not stolen, just rearranged. His knife was still where he left it, but his water pouch was now filled to the top. Fresh water, cleaner than what he could find himself. It was impossible to mistake now. She was watching his every move, deciding if he was worth helping, or worth hunting. That night, as he lay under the shadow of his broken ship, Elias stared into the dark canopy above. Somewhere up there, she was awake, and he was sure that when they met again, it wouldn't be from a distance. The first encounter morning came slowly on the alien moon. The mist clung to the trees, swirling in pale ribbons as the first light touched the jungle. Elias woke with a start. A faint snapping sound had pulled him from sleep. It wasn't loud, but it was close. He reached for his knife and listened, holding his breath. The jungle was alive with the usual hum of creatures, but something was moving just beyond the edge of his camp. He moved quietly, careful not to disturb the leaves underfoot. When he stepped past the wreckage of his ship, he saw them footprints, not animal tracks. These were shaped like a human's, but longer, with an extra curve in the toes, almost like claws. They were fresh, pressed into the damp soil, and they led deeper into the trees. Elias followed, keeping his steps light. The trail twisted through dense undergrowth, across streams where the water was so clear he could see strange silverfish darting below. The air was thick with the smell of flowers and wet earth. Above, he caught glimpses of movement, shadows flitting from branch to branch, always ahead of him, never too far. Then he made a mistake. His boot caught on a hidden loop of vine, and in an instant, the ground dropped away beneath him. The rope tightened around his ankle, yanking him up into the air. The world spun as he dangled upside down, swinging gently in the humid air. He cursed under his breath, trying to reach his knife. But the angle was all wrong. From the corner of his eye, something moved. A shape emerged from the shadows high in the trees, descending along a thick vine with the ease of a predator. She stopped only a few feet from him, crouched on a branch, watching the alien monkey lady, up close. She was unlike anything Elias had seen. Her body was tall and lithe, covered in short, sleek fur patterned like swirling smoke. Her limbs were long and strong, fingers tipped with sharp, curved claws. Her tail moved slowly behind her, coiling and uncoiling as if alive with its own thoughts. But her face was almost human, with high cheekbones, smooth skin around her eyes, and lips that pressed into a neutral line. Her golden eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made his breath catch. She tilted her head, studying him as if trying to decide what he was. When she spoke, her voice was a strange mix of sounds, clicks, trills, and short human words. "You lost?" she asked, the accent sharp but clear enough to understand. Elias forced himself to stay calm. "Ship crash," he said, pointing toward the direction of his camp. He wasn't sure how much she understood, but she glanced briefly in the direction he pointed, then looked back at him. Her expression didn't change. She dropped down from the branch in one smooth motion, landing silently beside him. Her claws flashed, and with a single swipe, she cut the rope holding him. Elias hit the ground hard, rolling to his feet. By the time he looked up, she had stepped back, her eyes still fixed on him. Before either of them could speak, a deep guttural roar echoed through the jungle. The sound was close to close. Branches snapped and leaves rustled violently as something massive crashed toward them. From the shadows burst a predator unlike anything Elias had seen, a four-legged beast with scaled hide, a gaping mouth lined with needle-sharp teeth, and eyes that burned red. The creature lunged, and Elias dove to the side. The alien monkey lady moved faster, springing onto the beast's back. Her claws slashed deep into its neck, her tail wrapping around its head to pull it off balance. The beast bucked and twisted, but she didn't let go. Elias scrambled for his knife and rushed in, stabbing at the creature's flank. It roared again, thrashing wildly. Before finally collapsing to the ground, panting, Elias stepped back, watching as she pulled her claws free and stood over the fallen predator. Her golden eyes met his again. There was no smile, no sign of thanks. She simply gave a short nod, turned and vanished into the trees. Within seconds, she was gone, swallowed by the jungle as if she had never been there. Elias stood alone, breathing hard. He wasn't sure if she had saved him, or if he had just happened to be useful in that moment. One thing was certain, this was no ordinary survivor, and the next time they met, he needed to be ready. A dangerous rescue. The jungle was never quiet for long. Even in the still heat of midday, something always moved, insects clicking, leaves shifting, distant animal calls echoing through the canopy. But today, there was something different in the air. The sounds were sharper, more frantic. It felt as if the jungle itself was restless. Elias had spent the morning searching for salvage from his wrecked ship. He'd found a few intact panels, some wiring, and a cracked solar cell. Not enough to repair the engines, but maybe enough to power the beacon for a short burst. If he could fix it, someone might hear his distress signal, if the Harrow Syndicate didn't hear it first. By the time he returned to his small camp, sweat was running down his back. He dropped the scrap beside the ship and leaned against the hull, catching his breath. That's when he heard it, a deep rumble, so low he felt it in his chest before he realized it was sound. It wasn't thunder, it was movement, something massive, and getting closer. Branches ahead swayed violently. Bird-like creatures exploded into the air in a flurry of wings and cries. Elias grabbed his knife, though he knew it wouldn't be enough against something big. Then the jungle tore open, and a creature burst through. It was even larger than the predator from before. 6 legs, a long armored body, and a head shaped like a hammer. Its mouth lined with jagged teeth, its hide shimmered like wet stone, and its eyes locked onto Elias immediately. The beast roared, a deafening sound that sent a shiver through his spine. Elias turned to run, but the ground shook as the creature charged. He dove aside just as it crashed into the wreckage of his ship. Tearing through the metal like paper, the beast wheeled around, tail lashing, and lunged again. Elias stumbled back, ready to make one last stand. A blur dropped from above. The alien monkey lady slammed onto the beast's back, claws digging deep into its armored plates. Her tail wrapped around one of its forelegs, jerking it off balance. The creature bellowed, trying to shake her off, but she moved like flowing water, climbing up its back toward its head. "Move," she barked, her voice sharp and urgent. Elias didn't need to be told twice. He darted aside as she leaped from the beast's back to a nearby branch, then launched herself again. Striking at its eyes, the monster reeled, roaring in pain. Elias seized the moment, darting in with his knife to slash at the softer joints between its armored plates. The fight was chaos. The beast swung its tail, smashing through trees, sending splinters into the air. The monkey lady dodged each blow with impossible speed, her claws flashing in the dappled light. At one point, she grabbed Elias by the arm and yanked him out of the way just before the tail smashed down where he had been standing. Finally, she climbed onto the beast's head and drove both claws deep into the gaps behind its eyes. The creature gave one last shuddering roar before collapsing to the ground, its massive body shaking the earth. For a long moment, the jungle was silent again. Elias stood breathing hard, the taste of metal and dust in his mouth. She jumped down from the carcass, landing lightly beside him. Her golden eyes met his, still sharp, but not as cold as before. "You slow," she said bluntly. Elias almost laughed, but instead he managed. "You're fast." She tilted her head, as if deciding whether that was a compliment. Then she turned toward the trees, already moving away. Elias called after her, "Why help me?" She stopped, glanced back once, and said, "Not help you, help jungle." Then she vanished into the branches, leaving Elias alone with the cooling corpse of the beast. He stared at the spot where she'd disappeared. She'd saved his life twice now, but still kept a wall between them. Maybe she would never trust him, or maybe she was waiting for him to prove himself. Either way, he knew one thing: she was no random guardian of the jungle. She was a force of her own, and if he wanted to survive here, he would have to understand her. The hidden village, the jungle, was quieter the next morning. The usual chorus of distant calls and rustling leaves was replaced by a stillness that felt strange. Elias had spent most of the night thinking about the monkey lady's words. Not help you, help jungle. She was a guardian, that much was clear, but who had given her that role, and was she the only one of her kind? Curiosity gnawed at him. If he wanted answers, he would have to follow her trail. It wasn't easy. She moved like a ghost, leaving almost no sign of her passing, but Elias had grown up in the deep woods of his homeworld, and he knew how to look for the smallest details. A broken twig here, a vine disturbed there. Slowly, the path began to reveal itself, winding deeper into a part of the jungle he hadn't seen before. The air grew cooler as the trees rose even higher, their massive trunks twisting together like the pillars of some ancient cathedral. Thick vines hung down like ropes, some braided together into what looked almost like ladders. Elias stopped to study one and realized it wasn't made entirely of plants. It was reinforced with fibers and knots too precise to be natural. Someone had built it. He climbed, careful to keep quiet. The vine ladder led to a wooden platform high in the trees. From there, a narrow bridge stretched to another platform, and another beyond that. As he moved, the jungle opened up into a vast network of walkways, rope bridges, and structures woven from wood, vine, and stone. It was a village, a hidden city in the treetops. Elias stepped carefully, his eyes scanning every corner. The structures were decorated with carved symbols, spirals, animal shapes, and strange star-like patterns. Small clay bowls and tools were scattered about. Everything looked old, weathered by years of wind and rain, but it didn't feel abandoned. It felt empty, as if the people who had lived here had left only recently. And then he saw her. She was crouched at the far end of the largest platform, repairing a section of woven flooring. When she looked up, her golden eyes narrowed. "You follow," she said, not as a question. Elias raised his hands slightly. "I wanted to see where you live." She stood, her tail flicking behind her. "No live," she replied, her voice quieter now. "Guard." She walked past him toward a carved totem at the center of the platform. It was tall, made of dark wood, and shaped like a towering figure with a long tail and outstretched arms. The carving's eyes had been painted gold, just like hers. "This place, your people's?" Elias asked. She touched the totem with one clawed hand. "My tribe," she said after a pause. "Long ago, many. Now, one." Her words carried a weight that even Elias could feel. "What happened to them?" he asked. She didn't look at him. "Hunters. From sky, take many. Kill more," she said flatly. Her voice tightened, but her face stayed unreadable. Elias understood without needing more detail. Someone had wiped out her people, and she had been left alone to protect what remained. He glanced around at the empty walkways and homes. "It must be lonely," he said. Her eyes flicked to him sharply. "Jungle not lonely. Jungle alive," she replied. Still, he thought he saw something in her gaze. A small crack in the wall she kept between them. They spent the rest of the afternoon in near silence. Elias helped her reinforce some of the older bridges, and she showed him how to walk across them without making a sound. She moved like part of the jungle itself, By the time the twin moons rose, the treetop village glowed faintly with light from fireflies caught in small woven cages. It was beautiful, peaceful in a way Elias had not expected. As he prepared to leave, she stopped him at the edge of the platform. "You go back," she said. "This place not for you." Elias hesitated. "I'm not here to take anything," he said. "I just want to understand." Her golden eyes studied him for a long moment. "Understand? Maybe," she said softly, then turned away, disappearing into the shadows. Elias climbed back down into the jungle. The path to the village was burned into his mind now, but he knew she could make it disappear if she wanted. Whatever she was, whatever her story truly held, he was closer to knowing. But he also knew that in her eyes, he was still an outsider. The choice. The next few days passed in uneasy rhythm. Elias split his time between scavenging parts from his wrecked ship and following the faint trails that led him toward the monkey lady's territory. Sometimes he saw her from a distance, leaping between branches, vanishing into the green, or crouched in the high canopy watching something he couldn't see. She never approached, but she didn't chase him away either. On the fourth morning, the jungle woke differently. There was no birdsong, no insect hum. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Elias was repairing a damaged solar cell when he heard the sound, a deep rumble in the distance. Not like an animal, but like engines, big ones. He climbed to the top of a ridge for a better view. On the horizon, cutting through the mist, he saw them, 3 dark shapes descending through the clouds. Dropships. He didn't need to guess who they belonged to. The Harrow Syndicate. By the time he reached the treetop village, she was already there, crouched on a high platform, her golden eyes scanning the horizon. "They come," she said simply. Elias nodded. "They're after me," he said. "But if they find you, they'll take you too." She didn't look at him. "They take all. Jungle, trees, life," she replied, her voice low but sharp. She turned to leave, but Elias stepped in front of her. "I can get us both off this moon," he said. "My ship's damaged, but I can make it fly. If we leave now, we can be gone before they land." Her tail flicked once, a sign of agitation. "I not leave," she said firmly. "This is my home, my jungle. I fight." Elias shook his head. "They'll come with guns, with fire. You can't fight them alone." She narrowed her eyes. "I fight better than you," she said. Not with arrogance, but as a simple fact. Elias almost smiled. "Maybe, but I've fought them before. I know how they work." The wind shifted, carrying the distant thump of heavy rotors. They were getting closer. Elias stepped closer to her, lowering his voice. "If you stay, they will burn this place to the ground. I've seen them do it. If we leave, you live to fight another day. If you stay, you die here." For the first time, she didn't answer right away. She looked past him, out over the jungle canopy. "This place is last of my people," she said quietly. "If I leave, I break promise to them. I am guardian until I die." Elias felt a sharp frustration twist in his chest. He wanted to respect her choice, but he couldn't watch her throw her life away. "You can still be a guardian," he said, "but you can't protect anything if you're dead." Her gaze locked on his. "You talk much," she said, but her tone had softened. Then the sound of engines roared closer, drowning out everything else, through the gaps in the canopy. Elias saw flashes of metal, Harrow gunships moving low, searchlights sweeping the trees. "They're here," he said. She turned toward the far end of the village, where a narrow bridge led into the deeper jungle. "You go to your ship. I make them follow me," she said. Elias stepped forward. "No, we do this together." For a moment, they stared at each other. Then, without a word, she handed him a small bundle wrapped in woven leaves. Inside were sharp stone blades, coated in a black resin that shimmered faintly. "Poison," she said. "Strong. Kill in minutes." Elias took one, sliding it into his belt. "All right," he said. "We fight." Her eyes glinted, almost approving. "Good. But if you die, I take your ship," she said. Elias gave a short laugh despite the tension. "Deal." The first Harrow dropship thundered overhead, cutting through the canopy. The jungle's silence was broken by the hiss of ropes and the heavy thump of armored boots hitting the platforms. The choice was made. Together, they melted into the shadows, 2 hunters preparing to strike before the invaders could destroy what was left. Friend or foe? The Harrow troops moved fast. Black armor glinted under the dim jungle light, their rifles sweeping the treetop platforms in short bursts of light. They were disciplined, moving in pairs, securing bridges and walkways. Elias and The monkey lady lay flat on a high beam, watching them spread out. They'll search every platform, Elias whispered. She nodded once, her tail curling slowly behind her. We take first. Scare rest, she said. Elias grinned. Scare. I like that. Two soldiers crossed the narrow bridge toward their position. The monkey lady moved first, a blur of motion, dropping silently behind them. One quick slash of her poisoned blade, and the first soldier fell without a sound. Elias lunged at the second, locking an arm around his neck and dragging him into the shadows. By the time the man went limp, the monkey lady had already taken his weapon. They slipped across the bridge, moving low. The Harrow were alert now, their coms buzzing with sharp voices. Searchlights scanned the platforms, cutting bright beams. Through the shadows, Elias pointed toward a central walkway where a heavy repeater gun was being set up. If that thing fires, we're done, he said. She didn't answer, she was already gone, leaping into the canopy above the weapon crew. From his angle, Elias saw her drop like a shadow. The gunner barely had time to look up before her claws sank into his shoulder, yanking him backward. She swung his body into another soldier, sending them both crashing over the railing. Elias sprinted in, firing a burst from the stolen rifle to scatter the others. He dove behind the gun's housing, cutting its power feed with his knife. The jungle erupted into chaos. Harrow troops fired blindly into the trees. The monkey lady moved like smoke, never in one place long enough to be hit. Elias kept low, picking his shots carefully, driving the enemy back toward the edges of the village. Then the lead officer appeared, Commander Rack, a tall, scarred alien with pale, scale-covered skin. He carried a massive blade on his back and moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. His cold slitted eyes locked onto the monkey lady. You, he growled. I've heard the stories. The last of your kind. She bared her teeth. You hear wrong, she said, and then she leapt at him, claws flashing. The fight was brutal. Rack swung his blade in wide arcs, each strike heavy enough to split wood. She dodged and countered, cutting shallow lines into his armor, but he was strong. Elias saw her falter when the edge of his blade clipped her shoulder. Without thinking, he charged in, firing his rifle point-blank into Rack's side. The Harrow commander roared in pain, swinging toward Elias. Before the blade could fall, the monkey lady drove her poisoned dagger deep into Rack's exposed neck. He froze, the light fading from his eyes, with a final, shuddering breath. He fell backward off the platform into the darkness below. The remaining Harrow soldiers hesitated. The monkey lady stood tall on the platform, blood streaking her fur, her golden eyes burning in the torchlight. Elias stepped beside her, rifle ready. Go, he shouted, whether it was fear of her, the sight of their fallen commander, or both. The Harrow broke, retreating into the jungle. Silence settled over the village, broken only by the rustle of leaves in the night wind. Elias lowered his rifle, breathing hard. She glanced at him. You fight better than I thought, she said. Elias gave a small smile. And you're not as scary as I thought. She tilted her head, almost amused. Still scary, she replied. Then she reached into a pouch at her side and pulled out a small carved charm, shaped like a curling tail. She pressed it into his palm. Gift. Means. Not foe, she said. Elias closed his hand around it. Friend, then? He asked. She didn't answer directly, just gave him one last look before disappearing into the shadows of the trees. The next morning, Elias repaired the last of his ship's systems. As the engines powered up, he glanced toward the jungle. He knew she was there, watching. As the Nomad's light lifted into the sky, he wondered if he'd ever see her again. But deep down, he knew their paths would cross once more. And next time, there'd be no question of friend or foe.